Hi, everyone. Today I am reading for you the second chapter of my book, A Dream's Short Story. I hope you enjoy this one, and if you missed the first chapter, you can find the video in my channel. So let's start. Chapter 2, Family. The main problem when the worst was over was that we didn't really know where to go. Tired, exhausted, sitting at the fire station with towels around us to warm up, we were a sad sight. My parents were not poor, but neither were they rich. We had enough to continue living as we did, not to start all over from scratch. The house that the storm had taken away from us was the legacy of my paternal grandparents, with whom we had lived there in Plymouth until they both were dead, a few months apart, one from the other. We didn't have other relatives, and likewise we didn't have enough money or strength to look for a place to start on the spot. But we certainly couldn't be someone's guests forever or ask for help without knowing when we could have repaid the debt. I saw that my parents were on the edge of desperation, so hopeless that they didn't even care to lower their voices before us. I heard them discussing grandmother. Sure, I said that there were no other relatives, but it's not entirely true. Marianne, my mother's mother, was still alive and lived alone in a huge family villa where, however, we had never been. Marianne was not exactly the ideal grandmother, nor mother, judging by how much they talked about her at home. Never once did she want to see her grandchildren, not even for a birthday, and she had had opportunities. My brothers were all born between April and July, and I was born at the end of October, but she had never visited us. She just sent dry greeting cards when she liked. We hadn't even ever met her in person, apart from Toby, who didn't remember it because he was too young. But the meeting shouldn't have been good since it never happened again. Despite this, Marianne was now our only hope, or at least the nearest. The huge villa with empty rooms would have been perfect for us. It would, because grandmother had clearly said that she didn't want us there, ever, for any reason. I never really understood why Marianne had always been so sour and rigid to her daughter, my mother. I think that somehow it had to do with her marriage to a penniless boy that she'd never liked, and with whom my mother had run away when she was not even 20 years old, and already pregnant with Toby. If we look at things from her point of view, as matron of the Hendrickson house, so powerful to have given her surname to her children, heir of a healthy entrepreneur, it is not surprising that Marianne had decided to be outraged when her reputation and that of the whole family had been tainted by a stubborn, silly girl. My mother had never tried, nor dared, to ask her parents for help, and they had been happy not to have to offer it to her. They had covered up the matter before the word got too loud, and continued their high society life as if nothing had happened, just with a daughter less. A few months later, as I said, my parents had made a timid attempt at reconciliation, thinking that little Toby would have grown up better, knowing who his grandparents were, and hoping, after all, that the new grandchild could sweeten the sour old ones. It did not go as planned, and the large door of Villa Hendrickson was closed to prevent any future contact with my mother. After the death of my grandfather, Marianne became even more closed in herself, partly out of spite and stubbornness, and partly, I think, out of the sadness of a loneliness that she refused to admit to herself. What should we do? My father's somber voice roused me from my thoughts, and I turned to look at him. He held his big hand on my mother's thin one. It sounded like he was trying to convince her to do something. I know, you're right, but I also know that she would never let us. You know her too, it won't be enough to make her change her mind after all these years. I don't want to give up, and you shouldn't either, Elizabeth. I know. My mom's eyes were blurred, and she was biting her already chapped lips. She seemed on the verge of tears. I'll try to call her, but don't tell the kids. Not yet. I don't want to give them hope that will be broken.